Folks, we have made it. Happy first day of college basketball. Nope, with that said, at least. Welcome on back for another fantastic edition of our Traders Talk Workshop, Monday, November 4th, shortly after 12:05 p.m. Eastern Time. And I'll explain to you in just a moment why you should look to listen to a 33-year-old man in a college basketball jersey. Great to have all of us back, though, inside our live trading room. Joyce, Andrea, Lynn, and Randy, Lawrence, Ruslan, Zagat, Barbara, Brad, all of us here live inside our trading room. And if you're joining us on social media, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, the works at Cyber Trading U on YouTube and Twitter, X, wherever you may be residing there on the lower left right there. Now, upper left, scan that QR code if you're interested in just joining our live trading room coming up. We got a long list of earnings coming out here ahead. Whoops, where did that come from? Oops, didn't mean to show that there, certainly. No, of course, obviously, I'm joking around. I got my home team here, Butler Bulldogs, starting their college basketball season later on. Today, I'm in the spirit, at least. But with that in mind, there's actually a long list of earnings coming out throughout this whole week. We got Palantir, we got Hims and Hers, lifestyle and health and wellness company there, and a bunch more coming up throughout the later part of this week as well. But I'll tell you, we did really well this morning, not just on Lumen here. I may be getting stopped out on my next trade that I just jumped in before a moment ago. Take a loss on that potentially. But we did really well on this trade on the way up from earlier today, but we did exceptionally well on a couple others. ADN, the stock in pre-market, ended up making a hell of a run. Popped shortly after 8 o'clock, but thankfully, where it ended up pulling back a bit here, it held a higher low. It gave us that second win type of move again, and it broke the higher high, ended up running up just about like 150, 200%. Obviously, this ship is gone and sailed here at this point. This thing is long gone. But otherwise, between the ADN and then Fausto's SMCI trade, he had just called this out off resistance at 28 bucks, bouncing off that level pretty nicely there. So both of those were good morning trades that we'll have the chance to cover here in our live workshop. So for any one of us that's new joining our streams, again, be a friend, tell a friend, look to join us inside our live trading room, though. We got Andrea here saying, go Huskies. Really, man? Really? Big East rival? Really? Whoop our ass every year? Really, Andrea? No, I'm kidding. I'm teasing you, obviously. Let me ask all of our members. Oh, and Lynn and Randy as well. Joining Andrea there, of course. Great. Let me ask all of our members inside our room. We'll get going into stocks in just a moment. What's your alma mater? What's your team of choice if you do have such? UW Huskies, says Joyce. I believe Washington, if I'm not mistaken, potentially. Brad says UNC, Tar Heels. Charles, IU. I was going to chat you there earlier, Charles. I forgot about that. I saw you were in Indy, so I figure as much, if not Purdue, maybe Butler, Indy, Hoosiers. Irving, Xavier, my soon-to-be new rival here. I think you got a really good team this year coming up. Marcella, Michigan State. There we go. Philip, BYU from him. Excellent. All right, so hey, best of luck to everyone on your team throughout this whole year. And you'll be hearing me bitch and moan at some point about Butler, but we did not have too much to bitch and moan about today, right? Between SMCI, ADN. Actually, to begin, I wanted to begin this Traders Talk by going over a couple questions that were sent in. Maybe we'll have the chance to cover SMCI and ADN as we cover these questions. But the purpose of this workshop is really not just to go over trades, but any questions that were sent in via email. If you're joining us inside our live trading room, you can always private chat myself or email me, josh@ctutrading.com. One of our new gold students here, Doug, had sent over a few questions just from Friday into today. And I told him, there's no better chance for me to answer these than just right here in Traders Talk. So basically, Doug had a question in relation to Bookmap at first, and in relation to, the heat map and the COB column, seeing these iceberg, numbers out there for the most part. He just wanted to know if he's correct in thinking that he should just focus on the number in the COB column. And for the most part, Doug, yeah, I mean, there might be some parts of Bookmap that might be a little intricate or tough to read at times. So when you just think about this, even just here on SMCI, just a moment ago, Fausto had called out a big 133,000 share sell order out there at 28 bucks. Right now on my screen live, there's 121. So maybe some of that order got pulled either way. Yeah, it was even more than 133, 140, 143 here at one point. So you do just want to focus on the number. That's the first answer to your question there. Don't focus as much on that spike here as much. Just look at the actual number, the raw data behind it. So that's a big sell order out there at 28 bucks. It was out there since the market had opened up. Maybe not that size at first, about 85,000 shares, even in pre-market, not nearly as much, but before the algos kick in and program trading alike, you have about 16,000 here. That showed at least as some viable resistance level throughout the morning today. That creates a potential target. Now, before it breaks or before it moves up to 28 bucks and tries to get up towards this price, it has to have enough legs to break above 27. And if it has to do that, then it needs to have enough legs to break above this damn thing. This looks like, potentially a larger order here. Let's say, yeah, this could be the answer to your question here in total, because as I zoom in, Doug, look, now it's about like 33, 35 plus thousand shares here collectively between 2646, 2650, blah, blah. So that's where you do want to focus on just the dark red going across the screen. The darker orange red, the bolder that line is, the more notable it should be. That's where you got to zoom in a little bit, kind of just check it out, put it under a microscope a bit there. You got 11,500, 10,002, 14,3. So, that's why this kind of stacks up together to be a stronger price. But going into the open, at least here for SMCI, well, let's see. Fausto had called this out off of 24, and then he had jumped in off at 25, essentially. There were a few things moving throughout the morning, so we're not going to always be there, perfect time, perfect place on everything, right? Not on everything. Not on everything. So that's where at least, he called it out off 24, perfect call out, but he was on other trades with me at the time and, bounced, away without him at first. This is where we'll tell you, listen, we don't, again, just said it before, we don't need to be perfect, but we need to have good conviction from the prices that we're taking these trades from. So right away, how about this for all of our members inside our trading room? I kind of gave the answer away just before, but what's our next dark red line, dark orange or red line as this is beginning to move up and then go up and up and up and up and up and up and up? Where do we have that next dark orange red line showing on this heat map? Brad, Ruslan's, Philip, all saying 25. Yeah, 111,000 shares. Now, this also combines with it the opening bell print. So for, this week, Monday, opening price across the whole weekly candle here, it's 186,000 shares filled at 26.85 or so. So with that there, that complements 25 greatly as a key level. It's not even just 25. That alone would be a big level to start with, right? Even if this thing wasn't here. But you also have 185,000 shares. Actually, I got these blue light blocking glasses here. You might wonder why I have these like orange glasses on. They're blue light blocking. I've been sick over the weekend, and actually this helps me out. That's not 185,000, my friends. That is 1.85 million shares, isn't it? So that goes to show that, it's even that much more important of a price to watch. The more times it can press up against that area, press up against that resistance in a smaller time frame, big move shortly after. So from there, this thing ended up making a hell of a run, ran over 26 eventually in due time. And then, like we just said before a moment ago, right off at 28, this was your next resistance eventually at some point. Once it broke over 26, 27, it's like, okay, well, eventually, the more this keeps showing higher lows, there is the thought of it trying to get up to 28. And from there, 145,000 shares. That is what I'm focused on there, Doug. So that kind of answers the first question that you had there. Let me just check to see everything else here on this one. You had sent in 2 emails, so I'm just checking the first. This is an area I need to focus more on. I hope to find the recording on Bookmap. So absolutely, in the Phase 1 stock course, as a new gold student, even as a new bronze, silver, gold student and above, it's Phase 1, lesson number 12. Throughout our cycle, throughout our curriculum. And that's where I go over Bookmap in total here. So it's nice that you're taking great observation of finer details here, and certainly keep firing away with those types of questions, because we'll be able to at least show you less is more at times. All right, so that was the first of Doug's, and then he had a second one that just came in earlier. So he's actually at work right now. I wanted to get to this right away so he doesn't have to fish through this whole recording. I talk too much and have him go through like an hour's worth of crap. So I'm answering his second question right here. Then we'll get to ADN. That's the trade that I took this morning. That's a trade like 15, 20 of us inside our live trading room took this morning here. It was in pre-market hours. We'll get to that one next. So from Doug, though, his second question, working to get in the way. My second question is about entering a trade. When you see a quote unquote under and over entry Do you consider potential resistance? I found myself holding a buy due to potential resistance 10 cents above the entry level. Looks like this was not such a good idea. The stock continued to go up. I was wondering what your thoughts were on resistance. Do you hold or do you enter with a tight stop limit order and let it play out? So I may as well go to ADN for this one, right? Because any sort of up move here could answer that question. And that's where I could just say it's not just one stock that I show you that gives you the end all be all answer. Certainly I could address the same question here on Lumen, a trade that all but looks like I'm about to get stopped out on momentarily here. Still hasn't broken a lower low, but that will play largely in part with like my risk management at least. So ADN, this stock had popped in pre-market, 8 o'clock move right out the gate here. So if you're wondering why didn't we have this on our pre-market list, you log into the trading room, like, why didn't they have it on there? Thing popped at 8 o'clock. Guys, you know, there's no news, no momentum, no volume at all. So, let's actually just check Benzinga Pro here briefly, if I may, and just check to see what the news is out on for this trade. So Advent Technologies, they were awarded a 34.5 million euro contract by the EU Innovation Fund. The last time we traded a company that came out with some contract from the EU, if I'm not mistaken here, man, I have no life, trust me. Is it RR? I think it was, no. It was either RR or it was Rail. I think it was Rail, if I'm not mistaken. One of them had the contract with the EU, which damn well might be this thing. The way this thing freaking pumped. Yeah, I mean, this was earlier across our calendar year. I don't know if it was back in August time, mind you, but one of those trades we ended up doing pretty well on. So that said, obviously every contract's different, every company's different, but interestingly enough, this had made a nice pop after that news had come out. Like most trades, you can't trust it as far as you could throw it. So, when it initially pumped up, it failed to make higher highs at first. Within the first 20 minutes, it came back down. Like my Lumen trade, it didn't break a lower low, at least at this time just yet, and from there broke higher. So the thing is that on this trade, this ended up leading to a pretty strong run. Let me get my call outs here right now because I want to make sure that I'm like telling the story straight here. I don't want to waste much of your time on this, and we'll answer Doug's question in full with this as well. But basically, yeah, we had called it out off the pop at 8 o'clock. From there, it ended up beginning to move back up at 8:30 in the morning. Get my snippet tool out here, if I may. Basically, we were looking for this to hold over VWAP. That's right. Okay, so we were looking for this to hold right over the VWAP price, breaking above it again as resistance, seeing it flip into support. I mean, this at 8:33 in the morning. That's from there, 8:36, 8:38, 8:43. So, just saying that we need to see the VWAP flip from resistance to support if this thing wants to run better. Like trading is operational or conditional, might I say. It's conditional. There's if and then. If this stock does what we need it to do, perfect. That's awesome. Let it run to the moon. If this doesn't do the bare minimum that we need it to do, then there's no point in holding on, right? How many stocks do we see come out with news, make lower highs, then they just make a lower low, and that's it? I mean, shit, just take one look at VKTX today. Look at this thing, right? Lower high, lower low, game over. See you later. Cooked. So that's where you don't want the same thing to happen to ADN, and certainly it's happening across this day. But this was a great trade from earlier, right? So this did exactly what we needed it to do at this very point in time. So we're going to answer Doug's second question right now, but let me just show you the VWAP here. Bingo. Boom, right here, right? Exactly at the same time I was typing to all of our students. It goes to show how important it is to at least have your eyes on this chat board. Follow my call outs, follow Fausto's call outs, follow Rich's call outs. And, we're not just saying, oh, just look at this stock. We're calling out the exact game plan to you. So at 8:33 in the morning saying we need to see 265, the VWAP here, it was pretty choppy around it. That's like my reason why I needed this to hold above it better, because this thing was choppy as can be. This was not doing a good job. So if this wants to make a higher high, in my belief, it needed to do a better job. So thankfully, right place, right time. This was the call out. I did not take my own trade from here. I wish I could just tell you I did. Let me ask our students here. Who here did not trade ADN today? Let me just ask that question. Who did not? If you're Charlene, Lynn, and Randy, Patrick, Barbara, Doug, Alex, Steven, any of us in our trading room, who did not? If you did, don't want you to answer. I just want you to say who did not. Bunch of us. Could I just generally, basically, like just abstractly, could I just ask you, why did you not trade this? And I would not look to short this. You don't want to be shorting stocks going up, folks. You're going to get your accounts blown up, please. You need to follow the trend. We can't be doing shorts on stocks like this. I know there's like a fraction of people on like social media and Twitter that like might do that. I see people blow up their accounts on there all the time. I don't know if they got mommy or daddy's money taking a $400,000 loss and posting on social media. I also don't know if that's real or fake, if they're just Photoshop. But I'm just speaking to any of us inside our trading room. Trend is your friend, my friends. Actually, with that, as you answer to me that question I just asked you, hey, why did you not trade this stock? Right? Why did you not trade this stock? There's a great reason why you may not have wanted to have traded this stock. Trend is your friend, right? That'll be me in like 50 years. All right. But otherwise, why did we not trade the stock? Late to the game, computer issues, all viable reasons. All viable reasons, right? I mean, hey, if you had computer issues, I hate that. That's like the bane of my existence. Off to a late start, rightfully so, then you didn't trade the stock. Today's a Monday. That's all you need to say. Today's a Monday. You want to take it slow going into the week. Now, if you want to go even further, you say, all right, well, it's like pre-election, so I'm going to hold off until afterwards. I don't know what's going to happen. Election coming up tomorrow. So that's where, like, just very simply put, you didn't need to trade the stock, right? I was in your shoes there at this point at 265. And I'm wiping the crust out of my eyes still. I'm still like half sick. I was like on my deathbed over the weekend. So that's where I'm like wiping the crust out of my eyes still at this point. Got my coffee in me at this point here, but otherwise, I didn't take this trade from this point. Now it pushed up higher. I eventually took this trade. I eventually jumped into this stock and then from there ran it up pretty nicely. So I got in off at 290. But at first, though, it ended up needing to make this push over 3. And really from this point, let me show you here on Bookmap. So notice that, I mean, 3, I guess, was a level because whole number, and it topped off, generally speaking, under there earlier. There's about like 8 or 9,000 shares out there, $3. That's not really too big. That's not really the largest size we've ever seen, but it is large for this stock, I reckon. So let's treat it still as a level. Let's treat it still as a level. But it looks like there is like a lot more buying coming in off of like 280-ish, 285-ish, right? Like look at the CVP column here, look at the Delta column here. So I was thinking, okay, well, we're getting like here at this point close to the highs, but there's not much resistance ahead. Maybe there's something on the daily chart that we could look at. That could be a level, right? A historical level, so to say. But otherwise, I'm thinking, all right, well, if it at least flips this area here, this big buying area from resistance into support, that's essentially what I looked for on my own entry. So show you my entry exactly here, but I started to get in at 9:04 in the morning, then 9:11. It was on tiny size. I'm just doing this on small size since it is a Monday. But at first, basically just in summation, I got out at like, maybe it was like a 9 or 8 cent gain on the first half. And then the second half I held for the larger reaction. I try to get the, more meat off the bone type move on the second half of what I had. So at least here, I ended up jumping in at 9:04 in the morning. Where am I? Right there. 391 on the first half, and then 911 on the second half, right? Yeah, 383. So I was averaged in basically at like $3.89, $3 and like however many cents there, 87. If it were to have broken lower here, I would have gotten out. So that was my basic game plan on this. So it was on smaller size heading into the open. I'm not going to risk tiny cents per share if I'm doing tiny size. Right? I don't want to risk too much, but at the end of the day, I'm still playing this with lower highs, right? Or I'm sorry. I'm still playing this with higher lows here. So it never really broke a lower low. It held a higher low. And that's what allowed me to stick into this trade as it ended up beginning to build back up at this point. I took half the trade out, like I said, 396, just to get some money, at least kind of scale back to an even smaller amount, and then see what happens from the second half there. But otherwise, let's jump to the daily chart here. And I'll show you why this is just pretty easy to see. Right there, 360-ish. I was looking for right around 360 heading into the morning, just historical support level. It broke below it. I mean, shook around it at first as resistance, but there isn't much otherwise. I mean, maybe like at like $4, 405. That was somewhat of a level here, but otherwise from that stage, the ADN trade, it ended up making a hell of a move. It ended up essentially trying to get up close towards that 460-ish price. And I tried to hang on up towards there. It was pretty funny in the trading room. Just before, let me see. I wrote this earlier and I'll show this. I told everyone, I'm trying to get out at like the second half at 458. I wanted to sell like right below that historical price. I wrote this at 9:26 in the morning, right? I'm trying to get out at 458 and the damn thing freaking shook. And it ended up hitting a high of like 455 instead. You're just trying to get that exit. And this is where I tell you, I'm not literally trying with the intent of being perfect on my exit. I'm just trying to sell under my resistance line. It's just unfortunate where I tried selling right at 58 and went up to 55 and then tanked. So I got out at 430 on the second half. It was a fun trade while it lasted, right? Now, as I wrap back to Doug's question here, at least, at the second point. So as far as setting up your risk, I do want to see resistance flip into support, and at least from 265, that's what happened, because as it's moving up to this price, it was treated as resistance, and the more it could at least nip above it, it needs to stay above it in order for it to make that higher high, that big move shortly after. So you could have said the same here at this point off of my 3 or 290-ish area, but it was already making that better pop at that stage. So, maybe now at this point, I don't think anyone's holding on to this thing now. This thing's a loser, but look what's holding right now is support. What do you know? Remember, folks, we don't make these levels up. We just react to them. So as far as like why I entered where I did, well, it seems like there was a ton of big buying off of that area, right? Right here, right here. And if you don't have the delta column, no excuse. This is where I just say, look, it's not as big of a spike. It's not like that more distinct, prominent, 2 times the size compared to everything else here type of spike. So normally I wouldn't be as attracted to this. But look at the sheer difference between the green and the red, right? Like you just see the drop off. There's a ton more buying than selling here, a ton more green than red. So ultimately, for as much buying pressure as you had, you would initially look for resistance to flip. Obviously, you're not holding on at this point as it drops, but maybe there could have been some sort of entry here. But if it's not going to go back up, the more it tests this, it's just going to flip right below it and then just completely crap out, right? All right. But that's where I say otherwise to Doug, and I just teach this more as well in the phase 2 stock classes that I go through. We actually just covered it in October's classes, but more or less, you got to trust your levels. If there's a stock that's holding above your big level, or at least in relation to risk, it's like staying above your stop. Like this damn thing right now, this stupid thing still isn't breaking lower. Hey, that's fine by me. If it miraculously comes back up later in the day and runs up to $8, then there'll be no one happier than me. And the reason I'm staying in this trade is because I'm trusting my level and I'm trusting my risk management here at this point. So at least on Lumen, we'll see what happens on that. But yeah, some trades you don't want to stay in for too long of an amount of time. Watching the grass grow, watching the paint dry. It's just that's not what we're trying to achieve here at CTU. You're busy. I'm busy. It's like where you wonder like, oh, how's Josh and Rich and Fausto, how they do it all? Because we're not trying to stay in trades that take 3-4 hours to make their move. Because when I'm doing coaching and I'm working with you, reviewing your trades, last thing I want to have to worry about is like something like this. So you got to make sure you set your stop. You got to have your seatbelt strapped in tight, or at least in relation to levels. So, this trade was on half size. So at this point, I didn't feel like setting my stop below here was like too egregious, I guess, if that's the right phrase. But otherwise, it's not looking good. This ends up popping right now, I'll be a happy camper. You're able to show bookmap at that 460 call out. It's not as much bookmap, but that was just more from remember, historical means like long-term charting. So, we'll go into bookmap. I'll show that. Definitely. I'll show that. But, just to at least say like on the ADN, if that's what you're referring to, this is just as straight up as it gets here as far as, whoops, sorry. There we go. That's as like easy to see as anything, right? Support, support, support. Coming down to it, crash, right? So at least at that point, I would have used that as a nice historical level, and it was. But here on ADN, you had an iceberg at 430 that popped up. That was a little bit afterwards here, and that's what caused this to shake down initially, but then it moved back up, right? Spiked up towards that area. If it's not exactly 460, it might be within a few pennies off. And unfortunately, I was trying to get my exit a little too tight there, so would have been nice there. But market opened up on this either way. Opening bell prints at 423, basically held as resistance after, bing, and then dropped. Now it's like to say, all right, like if you think that this stock has moved up too much, is it possible to short it? Yeah, but that's not what we're doing here at CTU. If you're trying to follow Fausto, a 35 plus year successful trader, not even just a mentor, like he's successful, right? I've been doing this for 10 years. I'm making money for like the last 4 or 5 years. And now at this point, we're printing money nearly every week. I feel like everyone here trusts me. And then as well, Rich. But that's what I'm saying. For what we're teaching you in our classes, you want to not stray away from what we're calling out. You want to be more involved. And a large part of that is simply just following the freaking trend. Fausto personally doesn't look to short these stocks unless if they are shortable by his broker, at least. More often than not, they're not. And same for me. More often than not, they're not shortable for me. But that's just where here, like, okay, let me ask our students. Aside from simple lower high, lower low, maybe you could say that right around 10:30-ish reversal time, that could be a better point to see a movement the other way. A bounce for a stock that tanked, or maybe a top for a stock that ended up running already. So I know this broke down pretty shortly after the open. This actually had a pretty good move here, at least as it made a lower high and it pulled back below 314, dropped off a bit. There could have still been a little room to take off that. But even otherwise, like we just said before on SMCI, this ain't a small cap stock, mind you, but for as much as this ran up, okay, around 10:30, maybe you could think reversal time. Looks like this had a nice little peak here at first, albeit 28 was your better level. Resistance did flip into support at first, so you're not trying to short this thing right away. But the more times it pokes it, more times it presses it, bam, short, drop. It's possible, right? It's possible to take trades trying to anticipate a counter trend, but you better set your seatbelt. You don't want to be blowing up your accounts here, right? So just easy to say, but I can't stress it enough because, again, for all of us that are longtime students of CTU, and there are a bunch of us joining us right now that are longtime students because they make money. There's a lot of students that don't become longtime students because they just don't follow the simple things within a trade. Resistance flip to support, just like Doug was asking. Trend is your friend, right? Now, there is more to it than that, mind you, but otherwise, let's just start with the basics. From Iqbal, is the white line the VWAP on Bookmap? Yeah, for me there. Yeah, right here. Notice just really quick on this ADN trade. I mean, hey, it smashed below the VWAP right here, right? I mean, wouldn't this like to hold as support? Maybe you'd think. Maybe you'd think it would hold a support right here because it broke above it as resistance and ran off of it so well. Well, it didn't do that, right? And when it doesn't do that, all right, that could potentially open up the door then to saying, all right, well, if this support level gets broken through and got smashed, then that support should become then, well, I thought it was here, right? Wasn't it here? Yeah, it was here. Resistance. Perfect. Yeah, moved right up to it, over, under, bam, right? Like very doable, but just set your seatbelt tight, right? That's all. That's all we ever ask for you to do. We also ask for you to not be in the trading room while you're in class. That's a separate issue. Kathleen, for over under, do you use the 1 minute time chart? I use, yes, I do. I use 1 minute time chart for pretty much everything. So to even simplify it further, I'll use daily chart. I'll use a 5-minute chart here or there. But when I'm dictating an entry based off of chart patterns, I'm mainly focused on my 1 minute. So great question to ask, because just like that's where it's like a simple answer, right? Like very like, yeah, just stay on that 1 minute. Don't need to overcomplicate it. I use a 5-minute here and there if I'm just trying to find the longer trend across the given week, right? I wouldn't be too interested in looking for a dead cat bounce on this thing until it really shows better higher lows and higher highs. Hasn't done that yet, right? No wonder why this held so well as resistance, because support basically flipped into resistance over time, that 2750-ish area, and ended up dropping off. All right, Lita says, not a good idea to try and modify Fausto's system. Well, I'll tell you, that's actually, I didn't really go into that as much in phase two from August, or from the past month in October. And I did it like in the sense of psychology and discipline. But I mean, I have to jump back that whole thing I just said about, being in class and not being in the trading room, because that's the easiest thing that we ask for you to do. But you just want to follow a simple step-by-step process. And if you cannot follow a simple step-by-step process, and instead you're adding this, adding that, you're trying to multitask, you're doing this, that, not going to get you too far, right? And Leda knows, certainly. So I'm saying that to everyone else pretty much but Leda. Well, maybe but Leda, but Lawrence, but Kathleen, but Lynn and Randy, but James, but a lot of us that realize that already at this point, right? We say less is more, but you want to be able to try and hone in as much as you can on what we teach you in class, and block out everything else. Block out everything else. Not to say everything else isn't useful, but it's like, if you're going to, for any of my fitness people out there, if you're like a CrossFit person, it's like going to like a studio and people are doing like just simple like dumbbells and like just simple running, simple stuff. And then some guy comes in there, starts doing all the advanced CrossFit stuff. Like, look, it just complicates things. You don't need to add. Less is more here. So as long as you're focused in on what we're teaching you in full at CTU. But yeah, absolutely, Leda. I appreciate you saying that. Most of us have learned that the hard way. I have too. And more so on the crypto side than I have the stock side. At least it took me a little while to like really learn a couple harder lessons with stocks, and that's even more on the option side of things now. So crypto is really where I got and ended up getting hit hard over the last bull market. All right, real quick, let's get through some more questions actually here. So from Marianne, one of our new trial members joining us. So let me ask, if you're a new trial member joining us inside our live trading room, or if you're on YouTube right now, just give us a quick chat back right now. Great to have Marianne join us. I thought I saw Dan, I saw Jean-Marc, I saw Eddie, Bill, Elmer. Got a bunch of us just joining us here, right? Bill, there we go. Great to see you here in chat. From St. Charles, Illinois. Marianne from Florida. A bunch of us joining us here today, and rightfully so, because I think a lot of us are kind of interested in seeing what happens with the election coming up tomorrow, and more so how the market will react towards that. Actually going to get to that in just a moment. So that's what we're going to get to as we finish up Traders Talk for today. But question from one of our new trial members here, Marianne. Got a couple that came in actually from before, so let me just double check, make sure I'm good to go here, Marianne. All right, so she was asking at first, she took the watch list this morning, the pre-market watch list, and she just started looking up information on Yahoo Finance to see if it's tradable or not. Is that what you would recommend to do? Yeah, I mean, as a new trial member, absolutely. That's awesome for you to take part in and look to study up more certain stocks, the news that's coming out, the charts that they may be showing. Now, if you don't have a platform or account set up yet, you've come to the right place there, I'd say. We have a lot of members that have all sorts of different experience coming into CTU. I mean, people that are six-figure traders already, but brand new market participants. So I'm just saying this out loud, but if you're a brand new student or a brand new trader, I should say, you've come to the right spot. We'll teach you where to go to find, the best brokerage platform, etc. But, you're doing everything that you should be doing right now, Marianne. You're here, you're joining us live. I know that. And, just checking out our watch list there. I mentioned this to all of our members, and she knew right away. She's just observing. She's not trading right now. She's just in it for the education at this point. So perfect. I say that to any of our new members here just joining us. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. If you feel like you're consistently making money day over day, or at least week over week, then you're probably going to get off to a good start with us. But just start off as the student. The best traders or the best people that become traders are those that are more ears than they are lips, right? So before I became all lips, I was all ears at some point, right? Trust me, I talk a lot, so don't worry about that. But Marianne's saying as well, another question that came in from her, and I said I was going to get to this one as well, I think, right? This was just more on Lumen, Lumn, and she was asking just checking the iceberg size, right? That was at what time? 10:30. Let's get to that there. So Lumn, it's the stock I'm still in. This damn thing hasn't stopped me out just yet. So clearly goes to show I picked out a good level, but laying over support doesn't make us money. It's the stock popping that does. So yeah, not looking too good. It's like I'm on a literal thread right there, hanging on. So this was at 10:28 in the morning. Marianne was asking this. So yeah, this was right here, about 775, 780. Had two different orders popping up, 52,000, 28,000 estimated. Then up top at $8, you have about 70 to 71,000 shares sitting up top there. So both of those will create your larger resistance levels to work with there. I was hoping to see 775. Haven't gotten it yet. In fact, a new order popped up here, which has blocked this stock from doing anything. So yeah, not looking as good now, but that's really where we had our iceberg. If you're just using NASDAQ Book Viewer, that's a great tool to have to start. We'll teach you how to use that all throughout our curriculum. Otherwise, though, Book Map here, the heat map program that we always show, and we have at least a good number of us in our room use separately. James says here, God gave you 2 ears and one mouth. Yeah, the mouth works overtime, Jim. I talk too much. Now, at least here, though, less, or at least here, I should say, more is always better. I've been saying less is more throughout this whole damn workshop, but the larger the size, the better. So it jumps back to Doug and his question here. Of course, seeing the darker orange red line here, but otherwise correlating that to the number under the COB column. And then if you really want to do some handiwork, you could try and magnify this, zoom in, and really kind of take a look. But you don't need this just yet as a trial member, let alone a brand new student. Over time, within your first month or so, you can get this. Want to watch me get stopped out real time? Let's see. Am I about to get stopped out real time right here? I think my stop's at 34. It's 1 penny shy. Set it below this low. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, folks. Hey, we got the election coming up tomorrow, right? Now, I like to say it this way because when Fausto hired me about 10 plus years ago, he told me literally, it's like, all right, Josh, rule number 1, never turn a day trade into an overnight. Rule number 2, don't talk about religion and politics inside our live trading room. We've got a lot of people here that are obviously interested in those two topics with great reason, and we don't want to disrespect anyone that has any certain beliefs, right? Good, bad, indifferent, whatever it may be. So we're not talking opinions. You did not pay money to hear a 33-year-old in a college basketball jersey spit his political opinion to you. Right? And I'm not doing this stream to listen to yours, but that's where I'll show you at least what stocks you should be focused on if either Trump or Kamala Harris wins. So let me actually try and bring this up if I may. Let's see here. Here we go. All right. So on Twitter, actually, this is from a gentleman I follow here, Speculator.io. New follow here I've been talking to of late. So these are all lists of different stocks from this guy here, list of different Harris stocks. You got the chip foundries out there with like the chip thing going on recently, Intel, Micron, Texas Instruments, Wolfspeed. That's one that we've traded of late. So keep an eye on that one. Global Foundries, don't know the price on that. If it's too expensive, so be it. A lot of these might be pretty expensive, but you got home builders, you got healthcare stocks, infrastructure, solar energy, clean energy, domestic retailers, consumer goods. It's a long list, and obviously there's more. There's obviously going to be a lot more than this, but this is a pretty handy list to begin. This is all the stocks just to watch if Kamala Harris wins. And then let me actually get you the Trump list here as well. We got Trump as well. You posted for Trump as well. So one moment. Perfect. Right here. Right? List of Trump stocks. Obviously, as we know, DJT, Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, like all the bank stocks potentially to focus on. More oil-based companies, ConocoPhillips, Chevron, Exxon, defense companies. You also got prison operators here too, which did move a number of years back. These two in particular GEO and CXW. I remember those in particular. Both did pretty well, I think, when Trump first got elected. Tesla, obviously, as we know. But crypto, hey, crypto. No, but obviously with that in mind, though, you can keep this list for yourself. You can take a little snapshot, fall back on this very recording. Traders Talk is posted as a recording on our YouTube channel. Again, be sure to subscribe to us right there at Cyber Trading U. You can find this right on this recording here. Take a little snapshot as well. Charlene says Dolly gives the best advice on these topics. Charlene, if you want to have a link for us there, just to, your what you tend to look at right there yourself as far as stocks and potential movers based on election stuff, that would be great. More is better here. Anything statistics that are good, facts and stocks to watch, we love that, right? We love that. Hey, I didn't get stopped out yet. What do you know? I didn't get stopped out yet. All right, we're hanging on by a couple more threads right now. Perfect. All right, trust your levels, right? Trust your stop. I'm not going to, hit the close button if it's not going to take me out just yet. I was accepting of the consequence of taking the loss if it were to have hit 34. But that's where I tell you, that's where you want to trust your first instinct. I've been there so many times where I don't trust my first instinct. I have my stop set. The thing's taking as long as the day is, and you're like, all right, let me just get out. Close my trade out. The hell with it. I'll take my -7, like whatever. And then instantly the stock goes right back on up after. So trust me, I have learned that lesson, hopefully, so you don't have to learn it as frequently as I did. All right, folks. Hey, I'll tell you what, I think that we're going to finish up Traders Talk in just a moment. Any last questions, definitely let me know. Dolly Parton's, her take on religion and politics. There we go. I'm sorry, Charlene. There we go, right? I got to think more there. So, yeah, just referring to Dolly Parton, her just general sentiment there, religion and politics. Absolutely, I agree. I thought you were thinking about some financial analyst, Dolly. I was like, oh, who's Dolly? That's funny. All right, folks. But hey, let me know if you have any last questions before we finish up. 6:45 game tonight. 6:45 game tonight. Missouri State. We should beat them by like freaking 20. So, the season is going to be long, but go Butler. All right, but otherwise, folks, hey, we'll be back inside our live trading room coming up later on today at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time for the afternoon meeting. I think that Rich will be doing that at least himself, but otherwise on YouTube, social media, Facebook Live, all of us just there at Cyber Trading U once more. Be a friend, tell a friend, look to follow or subscribe to any of our social media streams and platforms alike, or otherwise, if you're interested in taking the next steps, joining us inside our live trading room, just scan that QR code on the top left of the stream with your phone, with your